Some background. So after a century of humiliation in which China was heavily imperialized by the British, Japanese, and other Western imperial nations, there's a literal song translated into many languages which talks about this. And after it went through more struggles such as revolutions like the Great Leap Forward, which caused the death of around 18 through 45 million people, and later the Cultural Revolution, which caused the death of 20 million people. Obviously, after all this humiliation, China wants to be the top leader of the world, but it can't do it with fighting due to the fact that its enemies are too strong. So what it does is that it makes its enemies dependent on them. The way they do this is by first controlling everything inside of China. It controls the companies, which forces mergers with government-owned entities, having full control over them, and offers cheap labor to outside companies, making them more dependent on them, which causes people from these countries to lose jobs and stealing technology and selling it back to the same countries they stole it from. But in early 2016, one man had a plan. Candidate Trump proposed to make better deals with China, as he felt that China was taking a lot and the US was gaining little. And after he won the presidency, his strategy with China was to pressure them because the influence and giant economy of the US would be enough to sway them, so they imposed tariffs on nearly $550 billion worth of Chinese goods, and China responded with tariffs worth $185 billion on US goods, thus starting the economic war between China and the United States. There are two sides of the coin to this argument. Should we or should we not keep on trading with China? Not completely, but at the rate we are now. Many agree that we should lower tensions and lower tariffs as it will help with shortages and high prices of resources. But others feel the need to keep on pressuring due to the recent human rights problems on Hong Kong and the fact that over a million people are in concentration camps in China because they did not agree with their ideology. There are two sides to this argument, and even though I wish I could show the side of the Chinese media, due to the fact that it's in full control of the government, most of it is incredibly biased. But I did use the least biased thing I could find, the South Chinese Morning Post. It is probably the least biased Chinese media out there, but still be careful when using it. But other than this, most of the articles I found backing up the idea of lowering tensions have been for the economy. As in the desperate situation we are in, right now what we need is to lower tensions and lower tariffs. But I believe that this is a short-term solution because it would just give China the upper hand. But probably the best claim I found is about global warming, since two of the biggest carbon emitters should cooperate, since they make up about 43% of the carbon emission around the world, just both of them alone. But for the US to decarbonize, it needs lithium-ion batteries and solar panels, which is materials mostly come from China. But the counter-argument is that what we need now the most is to be independent from Chinese resources, as it is what's driving China to hold more influence on the world, and it is what's giving it more money to fuel its economy and project. So what this all comes down is that China's the bad guy, right? Well, there is much more to this, as the economic war is part of a much bigger conflict, the Cold War. Even though it did end in 1991, many say that a new one has started with China, as both the US and China fight over influence. They both have the same goal, to become the next great superpower, or at least to remain the greatest superpower. It's not like the US hasn't done things to gain power, like making the dollar the world's reserve currency, and making the whole world dependent on them to take care of their gold. But when they used up all the money to fuel the Vietnam War and the Great Society Domestic Program, they printed more money, and what they linked the dollar from gold. Now suddenly, many countries depend on the stability of the US economy for the stability of their own economies. And they even fought in many wars because of ideologies that they did not believe in. And what I'm saying is that not all of this was bad, but to say that the US hasn't done some things China's doing would be unfair, which is why I believe there's really no bad side to this economic war. And at the end of the day, the one that are most affected is the people, from Americans who lose their jobs and had to pay higher prices for goods, to the Chinese people who are forced into sweatshops and had to endure authoritarian government. I'm only scratching the surface, so if you want to learn more, I will leave my resources in the description.